All right, welcome back to Two Idiots Doing a Sports Podcast. I am Daniel. On the other side is Nate. I know we tried something new last week, and we're going to start off with another icebreaker. We are going to do a big sports tournament, and I will let Nate take it over because he's been messing around with it and getting it all ready for us.
All right. So, for anyone that is interested, we found a site that's called Massey Ratings, and basically you can do a whole bunch of stuff from college football to high school football to heck even water polo apparently. So you can do a bunch of different stuff, and you can find rankings from depending on the sport back to way back. So like a lot of college football programs, if you're more historic, like Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, you could track rankings, stats, stuff like that, all the way back to the 1890s, depending on how long your program has existed. So what we decided to do is create this tournament and just pick a random year and see what these schools how they match up and yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Some of the teams we chose. We chose the year 1916 because for anyone that knows, Georgia, it was the infamous Georgia Tech Cumberland game where Georgia Tech beat Cumberland 222 to nothing. So figured we'd give a massive shout out to a former powerhouse there in Cumberland. Um, so I'll share my screen and show you guys the tournament really quick, and then we're doing a 12-team tournament, and so just like the college football playoffs, and so as the eight, we'll just go top seed to bottom. So the number one seed is Army. Number two is Georgia Tech. You're gonna notice some of these get more and more bizarre, thanks to me mainly. Daniel chose some pretty respectable schools. I chose some, to say the least, outside the box. The number three is Virginia Tech. Number four is Rutgers. So those are four buys. At the five seed is Vanderbilt. Number six is Alabama. So there was a world where Vandy was theoretically better than Bama. Number seven is Catholic. Just Catholic. Might be Notre Dame. I don't know. Number eight, Ballard Meteors. Only played one game ever. I think it was against Washington and they lost, but somehow they got an 8 seed. So, number 9 is Tulane. Number 10 is Denver Freshmen. So apparently Denver had two teams this year. So might be an interesting matchup versus Catholic there. Number 11 is Clemson. So somehow in all this, we accidentally created a powerhouse matchup in the 2010s. And the last seed is, of course, Cumberland. So what we're going to do, I now will share my screen. We'll kind of show everybody how the matchups work. I did do a test earlier versus Denver Freshman and Ballard had won. So we will start off with Ballard versus Tulane. Well, Ballard at Tulane. So this might take a second, but you just hit sim. So Ballard has an 81% chance of beating Tulane somehow. Yeah.
And also, and also remember at this point, Tulane is in the SEC.
Oh, that's true. SEC powerhouse Tulane, but they just lost to the team called the Ballard Meteors. So it just means more. Am I right, SEC? So next matchup to face off against Rutgers, we'll do Vanderbilt and Cumberland. So Cumberland, as long as they could somehow score points, I think that would be considered a win for them. Technically, this wasn't really even a football program. They were forced to be a program to face Georgia Tech. Otherwise, they would have been sued for $60,000. Context behind that is Cumberland played Georgia Tech in baseball and had used professionals in that game to beat them 22 to nothing. And so naturally, Georgia Tech was pretty mad about that and decided to get their revenge. So we're going to see. So Vanderbilt has a 100% chance of winning. It's literally impossible for Cumberland to win. 100%. I said Cumberland casually. I'm hyping up how bad Cumberland is, and they just casually dropped a 59 bomb on Vanderbilt. That would have
That's
been
wild.
absolutely insane. All I'm gonna say is right now it looks like Vanderbilt's cooked.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's going to get to the second
Yeah,
round. And
they're getting smacked by Rutgers. Can't believe we're saying that about Rutgers, but hey. Matchup of the week is Denver freshman versus Catholic. So I do not have any context behind these two teams other than so they're not Notre Dame. I just thought the names were funny. So I'm pulling for Denver freshman. It was a close game, but okay, stupid phone. Unfortunately, Catholic for Denver freshmen, they could not score points, so 10-0 loss for them. Catholic will, unfortunately for them, will go on to face Georgia Tech, probably get smacked, and last but not least, Clemson will go on to face Alabama in the first round. So it's an interesting matchup. So 87% chance to go in Bama's favor, and Bama wins 13-3. These scores seem relatively accurate for the time, and then there was Vanderbilt Cumberland.
we're also
Casually
doing
dropping 120 points.
we're also doing this in 1916, where the spread was not yet invented. So
Yeah, so
are blowouts in a sense.
yeah, so basically they should theoretically have like most likely score. So 8-0, you could sort of use that as a spread. That's the closest you're gonna get. So in the second round, first matchup, we got the Ballard Meteors versus Army. I'm really pulling for Ballard, but they're gonna get absolutely smacked. I'm curious to see. Does that? Yeah, there we go. Interesting. That's 22%. It's gonna be closer than we thought. So, 17-0 shutout for Army. Not an absolute blowout, but same time probably would be considered a blowout in this time, I guess. So, rep my boys Ballard, but they beat Tulane, and that was fun enough as this.
I think it was an upset, so they didn't at least go one and done.
Technically, based off seeding, it wasn't, but I mean, let's be honest. They probably shouldn't have beaten freaking Tulane, but. And then we got Rutgers. So, Rutgers, the 4 seed, and right now, 67% chance of winning. And after that game versus Cumberland, I just don't see Vanderbilt winning this one. 23-14. It was a better game than I thought, but Rutgers will, unfortunately for them, get the tough draw against Army. So far are no really any major upsets. Was hoping to get at least one. I guess technically, did I put Clemson to win? Alabama win? I might have accidentally said Clemson won. Shoot.
Yeah, Alabama won.
Alabama won. Thank you. Okay. I should have made a box for scores, but that's okay. Unfortunately, for Catholic, it's looking like their run is about to end as they face off. Again, one of the teams that started it all, Georgia Tech. So, 88% chance for Georgia Tech.
They're saying there's a chance. Never mind.
28-3. That could be a bad omen for Georgia Tech, though. As we know, that is an infamous choke job score in the history of football and college football. So, and last but not least, Alabama versus Virginia Tech. So, unfortunately, all the rest of the programs we got are relatively normal. So, but thank you, Catholic and Ballard Meteors, for showing out. So, shout out to them.
What a logo on that.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I love that they even have historical logos. I think that's sick. Bama gets absolutely destroyed.
Curb stomped.
They got smoked. So our final four: Army versus Rutgers and Georgia Tech versus Virginia Tech. So we will start off with Rutgers at Army. The one thing I wish they had was neutral site. Does not look like they have that. so you kind of have to force teams to travel. But Rutgers has a
Oh,
23% chance. Now, for context, you might think it's impossible. My friend and I were experimenting on Tuesday with high school football, and my high school lost to a team in Canada, and we had an 89% chance of winning. So anything could happen, although my high school is mid. So, yep. Another shutout for Army as Rutgers will go down 14-0. Army to the championship. Not really a surprise by any means, but here could be a good game in Virginia Tech versus Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech being the favorite in this game, but we will see. Yeah, 77% chance. Most likely score is 17-7. So we'll just say a 10-point spread. And it
oh
looks
wow.
like Georgia covered that. Again, high scoring game. So not really surprised by the finals matchup here. Hopefully next time, if we do this again, or when we do this again, we are definitely doing this again. We can probably find a little more parity, but we can also create some more crazy upsets because we got one in the very first one based off of team, but not by seeding. So Army will host Georgia Tech for the championship. Who will win our first ever tournament? Make your bets now. I would not be surprised in the slightest in Army. I'll go for my team that I
Oh
picked in Georgia
sheesh.
Tech. Yeah. Yeah, Army was crazy. Most likely score though is it's only 7-point spread, so we'll
Let's
see.
say
And Georgia Tech.
there's your upset.
There's our upset. Georgia Tech is the champion. And shout out to them. So congrats on the first ever tournament going to Georgia Tech. I'm a little worried that in Army's defense, they're busy fighting a war or getting ready to fight a war. I guess we didn't join until 1917. But so yeah, so that is that. We'll have a little bit more fun with that down the road, maybe with other sports. I know high school football is a lot of fun, so we'll probably do that at least once or twice. But we'll try to mix things up though. And then when March comes around, for things are gonna get
March
crazy.
Madness.
March Madness is gonna go wild with brackets. Um, so yeah, I've been talking for a bit. So do you want to jump into your topic here really quick?
Yeah. The so my big thing is the Stars are now officially finding it. They have a point, at least a point in 8 straight, and they've won 7 straight now. So they haven't played any like outstanding teams, but I think still winning 7 games in a row is impressive. And then we have Montreal coming up. We have Ottawa coming up, and then the first playoff team that we're going to play is Toronto. So honestly, I could see us winning 2 more games, or at least getting a point in 2 more games, and setting at least the record for consecutive points with DeBoer, but maybe even as a franchise. Um, we lost Marchment. He'll be out for another like 3-ish weeks. But I mean, the second line with Duchesne, Johnston, and Ben has just been on fire lately. And before last night, Jamie Benn had a goal in 3 straight games. So I think the Stars are just finally finding it. They just had a lot of injuries to start the year. The goalie and defensive play has been outstanding all year. But I think finally the offense is coming around, which we always knew would. But it's just been a struggle because of all the injuries, at least to 20-point or 20 goal scorers from last year.
Yeah.
And so when you lose, I mean, in a sense, 40 goals, you're going to struggle a little bit. And they're finding their stride, they're finding their legs. And I mean, once again, we're at least the Stars aren't yet at the halfway point, and they seem to be winning the games they should be winning and keeping the games that they don't win close.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can keep that going because I am going to the Canucks Stars game. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, me and my friend could see a W there. Last time I went, it's actually been 6 years, I think. And Alexander Radulov scored a
Mm-hmm.
hattie. And I think that was with you. Or it was with you or Ethan.
I think
I
it
know
was both
Blake.
of us. I think we
I
were
think
both
it was
there.
both
Yeah.
of you. Yeah. I know Blake wasn't there because I remember he was mad that we saw Hattie without him.
Yeah.
Of course, a year later, going to Anaheim, saw that. I don't even remember who it was. I just know it was against the Senators. And he got a
Yeah.
hat trick in the
Yeah.
first
I
period,
have
which was
no clue
crazy.
who it was.
Um, but yeah, so hopefully they can do well. And my quick topic was also hockey related. Shout out to Connor Bedard. I will not call him by his nickname. Makes me mad sus, but yeah. So Connor Bedard is on an 8-game point streak. He's the only positive of this stupid poverty franchise. So keep it going up, Bedard. And as for everybody else, actually I lied. Tyler Bertuzzi has been a big reason why Bedard's been scoring. I think Bertuzzi scored it a couple games in a row now. So I criticized that signing early on, and it looked like he's at least. It looks like he actually is fitting in with the role with the team, unlike the other 18 skaters on the ice. So, good to see Bertuzzi doing well. It's good to see Bedard having his confidence uh, coming back up. Yeah, I knew it would happen at some point. So, hopefully, he can get that point of game pace at some point. But if he doesn't, I wouldn't be mad because, again, you know, he has nothing to work with. So shout out to my boy, and hopefully maybe we could go on into a 2 3-game winning streaks in 1 year. Wishful thinking. So, but that's what I had. So really quickly, we're gonna jump into MLB. I had a couple sightings to report, but we had one other fun thing we want to do. This is another thing we're gonna try to mix in and kind of bounce off each other back and forth. And we're going to do Guess the Player MLB edition. So if y'all haven't seen that page on Instagram, it'll post a picture of the player. Then you swipe over one, it'll give you the year. It'll also tell you the teams he's played for. And then if you still can't get it based off the years, then it'll show you who it is. So it's basically hard, easy. You couldn't get it, skill issue. But I will need to pull that up. So let me go over to. I know who the player is, so I'll say he plays for the Cleveland Guardians. I'll start you off there.
Do I get?
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
do you want like height or?
Do I get
I can't really
position
show the
or?
image. Usually we could do position, just because usually I think the silhouette you're given kind of
Mhm.
gives you an idea, and since you're not going to be having that, um, he's in the outfield
Oof. Is it?
and first base and first base.
Oh,
Okay, yes, it does first base.
Noel Christmas.
Of course, baby. Yeah, I kind of figured it'd be an easy one, but uh, that's my boy right there. Cleanest nickname in the MLB right now.
Yeah.
Big Christmas, baby. So,
Big
uh,
Christmas.
so love that guy. Hope he has great success in Cleveland for years to come. And yeah, so that's that. So hopefully the next one we do is a little bit harder, but I figured we start us off with an easier one. But one last thing that's so, for example, I would have said if he couldn't have guessed who it was based off that, I would have said he played since I think this was his first year, right? Maybe 2023. I don't remember. He hasn't been in the league long.
Yeah, he
So,
hasn't been in terribly long.
but I would have given him the year, and then if not, I would have said it. So, but easy money. So, that's that. So we have a couple different signings. Justin Verlander to the Giants, 1-year deal. Dodgers signed Hyeseong Kim. I totally botched that. 3-year deal. And then the A's extended Rooker for 5 years, and then the Rangers signed Chris Martin to a 1-year deal. So, what are your favorite moves here, and what are your thoughts just in general?
Yeah, I mean, I don't fully understand the Justin Verlander one for the Giants. I understand you missed out on a couple of big guys, but I don't think Verlander's, in my opinion, on the down tick of his career. Maybe he's not you're going to be your ace, obviously, but I just don't know what you're going to get from him. He's had injuries a lot more the past couple years, and I just don't think he's going to be the guy that the Giants think he's going to be, or he's just going to get injured again. I hate that the Dodgers got him, but the Ha-Seong Kim, he's a great player. I think he's underrated. I don't think people realize how dominant he has been. When the Dodgers played in Korea last year for the the first series against the Padres, before they played a spring training game against Kim's team, and he went like 3 for 4 against the Dodgers pitchers, which is impressive because, the KBO has good players and good pitchers, but it's not as up to the level of pitching in the MLB.
Deep MLB, yeah.
Yeah, and so to be able to go and do that against a Dodger team is impressive in a sense. I think he's going to come over and be a good player. I liked him. Once again, I think the Mariners missed out. The Mariners have been sitting there not doing anything, and they needed another bat in a sense to help their lineup, and I think Kim could have provided that. Also, he's a good defensive player, so it would have also provided another positive for them. I'm excited that the A's are finally spending money. They've now spent $120 million this year instead of absolutely nothing. So, for some reason, the A's feel like they can spend. I like Rooker. I've always liked Rooker. I'm glad he's getting his paycheck. And unfortunately for other teams, they don't get him because the A's actually decided to pay one of their young stars. And we've seen some of their young stars go off to other teams and do exciting things. But they're keeping one in-house. And so hopefully, I hope the best for Rooker. I like him. I hate that he's a Ranger killer. But I really like Rooker.
Yeah, well, I'll say, I think we know the reason why they're spending money, which is their owner was dirt cheap and wanted out of Oakland. So first things first, screw you, Mr. Owner. I think you did the fans of Oakland dirty. So it's not really surprising that they're finally willing to spend some money. But yeah, good for Rooker. Thought it was a lock that he was going to be traded, and instead Oakland or Sacramento, whatever. I guess eventually Vegas locked him up, and he's a huge a part of that team. One of the few bright spots they have currently. So I think it was important that you're not spending the money on anybody else. You might as well lock him up. So I think it was a good move for them, and hopefully he can continue to have extended success for them down the road, except against the Rangers. So, and then going over to the Kim signing, I mean, yeah, it's bad when the A's are out signing you. When the A's are making more moves than you, Mariners, like, what are you doing? They just sat around all off season. Feels like they kind of gave up. I don't know. They just kind of are thinking to themselves they might not be able to compete with some of these other teams in the AL, which kind of questionable to me because I think there's a lot of positions wide open right now for you to compete for even just a wild card spot. I think the AL West is up for grabs. The Yankees are taking a. We'll see. In my opinion, they took a step back losing Soto, but and so Baltimore might take a tiny step back. This still should be pretty good, but losing Corbin Burns would hurt anybody. So, so the fact that they're just kind of sitting here acting like they can't compete with other teams, they certainly can, but they needed to make moves in order to make that happen. And the fact that you just let this whole offseason waste away, they ain't going to make squat. And just kind of leaves the question, should they just rebuild at this point? Hard to say right now, but and maybe they do great. We've seen teams like this before where they just dwindle around, do nothing, and then all of a sudden they're winning 80, 90 games. So sometimes it is about just believing in what you got, but I don't think that's should be the case for what Seattle is at currently. So, um, but yeah, the Kim signing was great for the Dodgers. Of course, another A+ move. None of their moves are not A+, but easy to do that when you have 300 billion in your back pocket. But for the sake of avoiding my bias towards them, I mean it's upgrade from Gavin Lux. Speaking of Gavin Lux, he got shipped to Cincinnati. So I don't remember what the Dodgers got out of it, but yeah, it's certainly an upgrade in the infield, and I think it'll help out their lineup a ton. So great move for them. And then yeah, the Verlander move feels like it's just kind of making a move for the sake of making moves. Um, Seems like it would have been a better move if the Red Sox did it, just because they're going for this whole, you know, maybe a redemption tour with the rotation. But theoretically, Verlander is still an okay pitcher. It does seem like he's finally on his last legs. He is, what, 41, 42 years old. So, I mean, it was bound to happen. He's had multiple surgeries in the last few years. So, he was due. Um, and it just seems like they're kind of hoping he can get maybe even 60 or 70% of what he used to be back. So, if that does happen, it will benefit them quite well. But it's just not an ideal response to all the pitchers you missed out on. So, yeah, seems like a C+, B- kind of move to me. So, and then yeah, the Chris Martin deal really quickly. I think it's a good pickup for the Rangers. Just another short-term addition to the bullpen. I think he did well in Boston. So I think it's just another guy you can relatively rely on in that bullpen, which for years past has been kind of their Achilles heel, to say the least. So I think he will help them out a ton, and seems like probably at this point replacing Kirby Yates. I don't know if he's even signed with anybody yet. A little surprised that the Rangers haven't tried to extend him, but I think it's a good move for them, and not we'll see how it turns out. So decent move for them. Um, any other thoughts on MLB before we move over to the NHL?
No, I mean I like the Chris Martin deal. Gives you another guy in the back end of your bullpen. The Rangers want Kirby Yates back, but I think it's just a matter of how much. I know there's a couple of other closers on the market too. AJ Minter's still out there. Tanner Scott's still out there. So the closer market hasn't been moving. I mean, but we'll see what happens whenever one of those three sign, because then maybe teams that need the closer will decide to jump on them and pay them the money they want, or close to the money they want to get their guy.
For sure. I think the Rangers should jump. It was one of the few bright spots the Rangers had last year. Pretty much everybody took a massive step back, and going into the year, there was a lot of questions with Yates if he still had it, and he had a phenomenal year. So it's definitely a guy you'd want to have back. It's not like you'd be signing him to a long-term deal. Um, to my understanding, anyway, I really doubt Yates should. Think Yates should have the understanding. He's pretty old, so he's not going to be commanding this 5-6 year deal. Probably going to be at most 3, which I would get the Rangers be a bit more scared of. Ideally 2. And if there's a 2-year deal, then I'd give him what he wants personally. But especially what he did last year. But we will see. And as you mentioned, there are a couple other closers out there on the market. So if Kirby's just asking for a little too much, maybe you can get a discount from one of those two guys. But regardless, Chris Martin, step in the right direction, helping out the bullpen just a tiny bit more. So, all right. So it is NHL time. A couple of quick things. So first things first, for the first time ever, the USA won World Juniors. back-to-back years, so they had never done that up to this point. Beat Finland in overtime and had the greatest goal song in the history they've ever had in Freebird. Phenomenal goal song choice. I think that should be a permanent move, but that's just me. Um, so yeah, a lot of great prospects helping out Team USA. It also helps that Canada is in shambles, in part because they're going to become the 51st state of the U.S. And I'm just kidding, Canada. Um, yeah, them losing to Latvia was crazy. And my friend who's Latvian was texting me and going off, making fun of Canada for a hot minute. And I was like, yeah, they lost to Latvia, bro. That's pretty brutal. They've given the U.S. Kristaps Porzingis, completely different sport. That's about it. So, um, so a really exciting time for USA hockey. Definitely seems like they're finally catching up a little bit. Just in terms of development, just in terms of bringing up better prospects, and hopefully it's a turn for the better for their Olympic team coming up. But for now, hopefully those kids will continue to cook going into next year. Shout out to my boy Oliver Moore. He was on the USA team for the Blackhawks. So there was one other Blackhawk too. Forgot his name. Sorry, bro. But in my defense, that guy was a first round pick, unlike Oliver. So, um, so yeah. So we got that, and then two other things we found out were the outdoor games for 2025 and 2026 season, and to say the least, they're interesting choices. So I'll let you start because you know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the outdoor game with the Bruins and the Lightning, but with the Panthers and Rangers, I just don't understand this one. Um, I mean, it's in Miami. It'll be at Lone Depot Park, I think is what their stadium is called. Regardless, it's the Miami Marlins ballpark. Um, I don't fully understand this one. The Panthers and Rangers really, it just feels like it's going to be another game. At least this year, even though the Blackhawks aren't good, it was at least a rivalry with the St. Louis Blues, and a historical one that has a lot of meaning behind it. I mean, there was a chance for them to do something really sweet with the Panthers and the Bruins, and I think they missed out. Or once again, like we've talked about, like the Panthers and the Lightning. I mean, that's a heated rivalry. I mean, the Panthers and Bruins also has become a rivalry just because of the Panthers becoming good, um, and them playing in the playoffs. It seems like every year at this point. Um, and so I just think it was a missed opportunity for both games. Once again, you can either make it the Bruins and the Rangers, and the Panthers and the Lightning as your two games, or flip the Bruins into the Winter Classic and then find another opponent for the Lightning, because I think there's better teams that the Lightning could play that once again would mean more. Carolina being one of them. I feel like they hate each other. Um, that there's just other. I think there's other teams that honestly I would have rather seen in it, or like we've talked about, moving a Canadian team into it, putting a Toronto, having it at Blue Jays ballpark, or I mean even other places. But yeah, I think we need, or a Calgary Edmonton, instead of it could be
So,
the it could be a battle for Alberta, except a Winter Classic instead. I just think there are much better rivalries that you could put into the Winter Classic that would make it a whole lot more fun than this Rangers Panthers one.
yeah, it's a weird pairing for sure, and it just makes me mad that they were this close to actually getting it relatively right. Rangers Lightning have a little bit of history in the postseason. Um, Most fresh that comes to mind is the 2015 Eastern Conference Finals. Lightning topped the Rangers, I believe, in 7 games to face the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup Final. Um, and then, the Bruins obviously have lost 2 years in a row to the Panthers in the postseason. But one of them being a historic upset, in historic fashion, no less. So obviously, I think if you just flip those matchups, would have made way more sense. And this is not for me. I'm not dissing on the Rangers here by any means. And honestly, I think people would be more excited if they weren't a dumpster fire this year. The Bruins looking bad. They're old. And Jeremy Swayman for 8 years. Bad move, but that's a different conversation. Um, but yeah, it's just, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's not a whole ton of history. Of course, granted, we're coming from a Western Conference fan point of view, so we don't pay as much attention out there, but just not really as much history between the Rangers and Panthers. And not even necessarily diss against the Panthers either. You kind of saw this coming. They won a couple years in a row, or made the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago. Won it last year, and won the President's Trophy a few years before both. So clearly, the Panthers are an upcoming team that look like to be a perennial powerhouse in the sport. So it makes sense to bring it to them, and I respect it. I think it just could have done a better matchup than the Rangers. So in terms of the Rangers, the one thing actually bothers me. Skip the Rangers for a second. My friend had texted me and said they were looking at doing Tampa, Florida.
Mm.
And I'm just like, so why didn't you? And just give the other outdoor game to somebody else. I was just like, it's right there. Tampa Bay, their window of opportunity being in the Winter Classic is closing. They're starting to get older. They're definitely past their prime at this point for the most part, minus Kucherov. So their championship window is closing. So why didn't you have them face off against one of their biggest rivals, if not their biggest rivals in the sport right now in Florida, and then just give that outdoor game to who cares? Usually Pittsburgh, Washington, or something. Even though those teams aren't great, how much longer you're going to see Sydney and Ovi in the league, So just weird matchups. And theoretically, there'll be better games than the stupid Blackhawks ever being in it. So I will give those teams that. Surely you Rangers or Panthers, whoever wins, you're not losing 6-2. You're not getting clowned on like we did multiple times in this stupid event. So yeah, just very bizarre. And then Bruins Lightning, again, there's sort of a little bit of history there. I mean, they did just play in the postseason recently, but not a whole ton. So yeah, I just, very bizarre. Classic NHL, just trying to force things that make no sense. And even with the St. Louis Blackhawks one, you'd already done that before. Not at Wrigley, but you did it in St. Louis. So, you could have waited. At least wait until Bedard's, a superstar. I get you want to market Bedard. It's a little too early to be doing that. The team is a dumpster fire. So you just got to... NHL's just all over the place. But final thought on that, though. St. Louis, you're only a hockey team because of Chicago, so you're welcome. But completely irrelevant to the conversation.
I also think for the outdoor game, moving it up to Canada, you could do a pond hockey game, let them play on the lake, sweet. And I think that would be dope. Which once again, I think we've only seen once. Didn't they do it a couple, maybe more than a couple years ago at this point? But I think it was up in Minnesota, and I think it was Vegas that participated in it. And honestly, that was kind of dope to watch. I didn't care about Vegas, but it was cool to see it was cool to see them play on the lake, and I thought that was fun. They should do something like that. Canada would be a perfect place to do that because it gets cold enough and they can actually be able to actually do something like that.
Yeah.
That's just my thought.
Yeah, I think the issue is the whole Heritage Classic thing. Personally, I don't really know the meaning behind the Heritage Classic. I know they just do it every couple years and it's strictly Canada. Personally, I just think you just get rid of it, unless if there's a meaning behind it that I don't know about, and start just have one Winter Classic and just start letting Canadian teams host it. And clearly, they let Canadian teams play in it, so why not just at least have more Canadian, at the very least, have more Canadian teams be in it? You know, um, the fact that Toronto and Montreal, as historic as they are, both of them only played it once. Vancouver's never played in it, and Vancouver's a prime team right now.
Mm.
They're a pretty solid team. I'd like to think they should have their hat thrown in the ring. Edmonton Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to market. You're literally the number one player in the world in Edmonton, and you're not having them play in it. Just they got this whole thing backwards. They're trying to market somebody that's young, too early to do it, and now you're not marketing the one guy you should be marketing right now, Connor McDavid. What are you doing? But I don't know. Like I said, there might be some meaning behind the Heritage Classic that I don't fully understand the context of. That might be the reason why they don't let Canadian teams really host, because that's really their Winter Classic. But personally, just dump it and just have the one Winter Classic, and then maybe one or two other outdoor games just for fun. But so yeah, that was kind of our mini rant about the goofiness of how they picked that. Let us all know. Maybe everyone thinks Rangers Panthers is a phenomenal matchup. It was the matchup we were all dying to ask for. Totally weren't looking for Boston Rangers. That would have made a lot more sense. That's the other thing that makes me mad about this. There are so many. You picked 4 teams that you just mix it around a little. The matchups would have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you just find a way to screw it up in NHL fashion.
Yeah,
but
you picked 4 good teams but you just
wrong matchups,
flipped
man.
the matchups and you made it the matchups that didn't actually make sense.
Makes no
Yeah,
sense.
because
But
like we said, you put Lightning Rangers against each other, great matchup. You put Panthers Bruins, great matchup. You put Bruins Rangers, great matchup, and then you have the Florida teams, another
yeah,
phenomenal matchup. But this is the one matchup, the one possibility that you could come up with where it's just they're good
that's
teams, but they don't mean anything to anyone.
yeah. I'll give them this much. They're at least trying to mix it up, unlike the NBA on Christmas. My goodness. I have to see Boston and Philly or Boston or New York one more time. I'm going to slap somebody because it is getting so annoying. Golden State, LA. Oh, wow. How original. We've never seen LeBron and Steph Curry face each other on Christmas. Of course, that gets them millions of dollars. So, but
Well,
that's a whole other rant.
not this year.
Yeah, true. Now
The,
that the NFL's moved in, the NBA's cooked.
the NFL said, "How you doing?"
yeah, it's our day now. But
We're taking this over.
since we're talking about NFL, we can do our little rankings for quarterbacks in the playoffs, worst to best, and maybe we could do a quick Super Bowl prediction since wild card weekend starts tomorrow. Just hope and pray the Chiefs don't. Let's just hope we're not cooked. But I don't have a great feeling about it. But quickly, for those that don't know, we'll just list off the quarterbacks and then we'll just go bottom to the top. So Jared Goff on the Lions, Matthew Stafford, Rams, Sam Darnold for the Vikings, Jane Daniels for the Commanders, Jordan Love for the Packers, Jalen Hurts, Eagles, Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs, Justin Herbert, Chargers, CJ Stroud, Texans, Russell Wilson, Steelers. I like that you listed Ravens here. That's pretty funny. Lamar Jackson, Ravens, Bo Nix, Broncos, and Josh Allen, Bills. So, who do you got dead last?
This is I've been struggling with this. I'm gonna put Russell Wilson last. Just the way he's ended his season, I don't think it's all his fault. I will say that, but I think, unfortunately, him and his offense isn't clicking, which is why they've lost 4 in a row. I think he's last.
Makes sense. How many quarters? So there's we could just write these out because I want to not forget. How many quarterbacks are here? 3,
I think there's
6,
16.
9, 13. Are we missing somebody? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hang on. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
We're
13.
missing Baker.
Baker. Wow.
Yep. How
We
can I
just
forget Baker?
per usual. Baker's getting disrespected.
Well,
We might have to move him up just for forgetting about
eh,
him.
he's an
uh,
Oklahoma. He's former Oklahoma. We don't like him
that's
anyways.
true.
Hook
Yeah,
him.
that's true. That's true. 13th. Um, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. This might be a crazy take. I'm gonna put CJ. He's just kind of lost his rhythm, and last year he looked phenomenal, but he just going into this, I just not confident that the Texans are going to look very good. Very good chance that they can lose to the Chargers, I believe, tomorrow. Um, and I hope he balls out, you know, just for the Texans' sake. And that's saying a lot because he's an OSU alum. But for that reason, I know a lot of injuries have played a part in it, but he's just taken a massive step back. So might not be fair to rank him that low, but personally, there's a lot of guys on here with a lot of experience. I might regret putting that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's really close between one or other guy. So, who are you thinking for 12?
Uh, um, I was between two players on this one, but I'm gonna put Bo Nix here. I think he's balling out. I do think he is a good quarterback. I just don't think he's a playoff caliber
Yeah.
quarterback yet. I think he's like a trajectory in the right way and better than Wilson and Stroud are doing right now. But like looking at this list, I can't tell you that he's better than anyone else currently. I would
Yeah.
take every other quarterback on this list before him.
Yeah, I know it's hard for me, but I'm kind of, with me and my friend who's a Broncos fan, kind of glazed him up at the beginning of the year saying he was going to win Rookie of the Year. And I was kind of hoping riding high that he would ball out. So that was kind of, I was really stuck between those two for that spot and one other guy I'm going to mention. But the Broncos are, I guess they limped into the playoffs, but so did CJ. And I feel like Bo has a bit more confidence coming off that last week, where CJ right now, you had the year you had your rookie year compared to this year. It's got to be really frustrating. I think going forward, CJ will recover, and next year we will see him jump a ton of guys on this list. But if we're talking strictly this year, I think it's fair to, it's a toss up between those two. In terms of 11th, we're going to go Sam Darnold. Might be disrespecting him a bit, but what we just saw against the Lions may have exposed a big issue for the Vikings. And I'm a little surprised it took them this long because they lost their best tackle earlier a few weeks ago for the season. And teams didn't really seem to, the Vikings didn't seem to skip a beat. And that surprised me a bit because losing your best guy in the offensive line hurts you a ton. And they've had other injuries on the offensive line all year as well. So it just kind of surprised me that teams weren't really exposing that. So, Sam, loved how you played this year. You proved that the Jets, Panthers were dead wrong about you. But think lack of experience and just going into the playoffs after what happened last week has got to be demoralizing. And I think the Vikings could be in trouble. But yeah, I think it's a great quarterback list in general, though. So I hope he can pull through for his Vikings. We'll see. So who you got at 10?
Yeah, this may be controversial, and I love controversy. I'm gonna put Hurts there.
Okay.
I since Hurts has come into the league, I really don't think he's as great as people say. I think he is a good quarterback, but I also think he's a system quarterback and takes advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an offense that really works for him. He's always had weapons around him: Saquon, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, he had Ertz when Ertz was there. Now he has what's the tight end's name? He has another tight end.
Goddard.
Yes, Goddard. I knew it was Dallas something. Dallas Goddard. He has him, and I just don't think he's as accurate as he needs to be. Um, he, I think, just struggles a lot in the passing game, and I mean, a lot of frustrations came out of the Eagles during the year. AJ Brown was throwing a fit. Devontae Adams, I don't think said anything, but like you could see that he was on the same track as AJ Brown of being upset. I just think in order for Philly to win, Hurts has got to be able to throw the ball better and be more consistent in the passing game because I don't think they can win it with just Saquon running as much as he does. Saquon's a great running back. Don't want to take that away from him, but I don't think they can do it with just that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, Blazing hot take to have him that low, but I respect it. For me, might be a little controversial here too. I'm gonna put Jaden Daniels, not disrespecting him, but he started off red hot to start the year, and then kind of just slowly started cooling off a bit. Wheels were starting to fall off a bit. No doubt he has a ton of talent, and down the road, I definitely could see him winning an MVP or at least a couple offensive player of the years. I think this guy's gonna be a stud, but you're a rookie, and I just kind of got to give a nod to guys that have been here before. They just have a lot more experience because the regular season's way different, and we just don't know what he's done. Might not even necessarily be fair that we left him this high, but I think um, he does have a lot of talent, and he's going up against a team that he started off against the year, looking to get revenge against the Bucks in week 1. But yeah, he's a great kid. Great on his legs, great arm, but I need to see what he could do wild card weekend before I really truly move him down or up. So that's why I'm putting him here at 9.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think he did struggle to end the year, but I also think they have a really young team and a
Yeah.
very newly put together team. And I think that may be why I think they're way ahead of schedule than they're
Oh
supposed to be. I
yeah.
don't think they should have made the playoffs this year.
No way.
Based on what they did last year, Jaden Daniels did an amazing job. Dan Quinn did an
Mm-hmm.
amazing job getting that team where they are right now. But I agree. I think Daniels is right here. Here at 8th, this is where I've kind of tossed and turned a little bit. I'm going to put Love.
Okay.
Love and Herbert were my two that I was between. I'm going to put Love here because he also kind of flipped his way into the playoffs. Didn't have a great last couple of weeks. Once again, playoffs are different. People turn it on in the playoffs, and maybe Love does that and proves me wrong. But I think coming in to the playoffs, I'm going to have to put him here. Herbert, at least in my opinion, has been on fire coming into it. Had a really good game in this past week, and I think that can carry over. And I just don't think Love has done that.
Makes sense. And yeah, I was debating between him and Love, ironically, or Daniels and Love, ironically, there. So, um, I think especially with Love, it's just a big issue with him is consistency, but the raw talent is clearly there. His arm is absolutely insane. Uh, but it also lost. Who got injured? Who tore this? It wasn't Dobbs. It was Was it Reed? He lost one of his receivers for the year. Tore his ACL. I forgot who it was. Good receiver, but clearly not that good if I don't remember his name. I'm sorry, guy. Um, so that just kind of adds into you're a little inconsistent and you're losing a weapon going into a tough matchup against Philly, especially since Saquon's probably gonna run for 120 plus because that dude is amazing. For 7, I was really torn between here, but I'm gonna put Herbert. I think it's really just again hasn't really been here, um, and definitely kind of he's really up and down. It just depends who his coach is. It seems like he's gotten a lot of confidence with Harbaugh. Last year was kind of a mess with what's his face? Um, it's Staley, Daly, whatever.
I don't even remember it was that bad.
He's so bad I don't remember his name either. I've been really bad about names in this episode, so I'm gonna be exposed as a fraud, I guess. Nate Casual, but yeah, I think there's just at this point there's a lot of guys ahead of him that are far more experienced that you can trust to get to that next level, to at least the AFC or NFC Championship, to Super Bowl if they've won it already. Um, Herbert hasn't really shown that yet. I think he certainly can, and I think he certainly will outplay CJ on Saturday. But we'll have to wait and see, obviously. But he's coming in a lot hotter than CJ is, so that's why I'm going to put him there, though. Just purely lack of experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I was between Love and Herbert, so I mean, it makes sense to me. I'm going to put Mayfield here at 6.
Nice.
Think he's a great quarterback. Once again, Carolina missed out. The Browns missed out. He clearly is a good quarterback. I think we all knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone said when he left the Browns, is he really a quarterback? Like, no, he's always been good. He just hasn't had weapons around. I mean, the Browns and Panthers are still poverty franchises because they still don't have weapons. Bryce Young, I think, could be good. Once again, you got to get him his weapons. But I'll put
Yeah.
Mayfield here because he has playoff experience, but he doesn't have it to the degree I think as the rest of the people on our list.
Yeah.
He has a great offense. Mike Evans, the most consistent wide receiver ever.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, Godwin, you have 2 running backs in the backfield. I think they're going to be good. They're going to be I think they'll be a scary team to play. That offensive line is massive and really good. And their running
He's a
game is
beast.
honestly probably one of the best in the league. And that's saying something because Philly had a really good run game too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Baker can make plays. He's clutch. He's got it all. I think he's here. But once again, I think the other guys that we have on our list
Yeah.
are better in the playoffs.
He's the best out of anybody in terms of just energizing your team. I mean, that's kind of his thing, you know. He's he's very confident and he's very outspoken. I think that's really important. Not everybody needs to have that personality, but I think it suits him well. The biggest concern with Baker is those turnovers. A lot of interceptions this year, and you go into the playoffs, you can't turn it over, man. And, you know, I think they could escape the Commanders, but it's going to be a lot harder when you go up against, it depends who they line up against. But you want to win, you got to be turnover free. If you're going to make a mistake, it's got to be one mistake. So that is a big concern, but there's the firepower is certainly there. The experience is there. You look at the teams they've beaten this year. Of course, it was the beginning of the year. They beaten Philly, and they beat Philly in the playoffs last year. They beat Detroit.
Mhm.
So you know he's beaten a lot of these teams, and I think it's a team that I think a lot of people should be worried about on going a run. I think the big concern is again, can they clean up the turnovers, and how will Godwin being out impact them, because he still won't. Don't think he'll return for the rest of the year. He tore his ACL several weeks ago, so I think he is out. But it's a good spot for 6. Number 5 is Stafford for me. Great player. I think really you're just he's come down to his last legs. He's getting old. He's I think the oldest quarterback on this list. To my understanding, roughly around 35, 36 years old. And wouldn't be surprised if his arm kind of fell off with how much he had to throw, especially sidearm. But I mean, one of the very few guys on this list that has a ring, knows what it takes to win it. And I think it's another team that could be scary because, again, seeding kind of played a factor where they were at because of injuries. They were missing Nakua and Cup at the same time at one point. and which gave Bears fans a lot of confidence for some stupid reason when they beat him. Idiotic. But because let's be honest, if both those guys were playing, the Bears would have lost by 20. But I'm not delusional. But yeah, I think it's really just coming down to he's a little bit older, and the talent, obviously the receiver talent's probably one of the best out of any of these teams. I think just overall talent is just lacking around this roster. I think it's going to be a little bit too difficult for Stafford to overcome, but you never know. Talent isn't the only way you win. If somebody has a bad day, turning the ball over, all you have to really do is manage the game. And we saw that with Peyton Manning on the Broncos several years ago. He was clearly on his last legs, but it did not matter because their defense was so stinking good. So that's why I got Stafford at 5. So it's gonna get really hard though. We got a few studs up here.
I'm gonna make maybe another controversial take. I'm gonna put Lamar Jackson at 4.
Okay.
I don't think he's done well in the playoffs. We've seen in big games this year already him not play well, for a lack of a better term. He is a great quarterback, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But historically, I don't think he's better than Allen, Mahomes, or Goff.
No.
I think those guys have proven themselves in the playoffs, and I don't think he has. I think he's only won one game in the playoffs so far in his career, which is crazy to think about because I think all but like 1 or 2 years he's been in the playoffs. Yeah. He just can't get past the big games because in the playoffs it is harder. Like it's different than in regular season. Like it's not as easy to score. The defense is clamped down. Like it is harder. And I think unfortunately for Jackson, he's just not, in my opinion, on the tier of Goff, Allen, and Mahomes at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's got a. Oh my gosh, my camera's doing this again. Crap. Yeah, I need to get a new camera, I guess. But yeah, Lamar's got to show up. This is a different stage, and no, not only that, first round, going up against a team that has your number. Ultimately, I don't think Pittsburgh wins, but there's concerns there. Yeah, he's just struggled in the postseason for a variety of reasons. I will say partially because his receivers have never been the best, and so it's kind of easier to clamp down on him in the postseason when he's just like, he's gonna run. It's not what is Zay Flowers gonna do? Catch the ball? No disrespect to Zay Flowers, but you do have drop issues. But so that's been part of his problem. But other than that, it's just a lot of self-inflicted wounds, just missing basic throws, missing basic reads. And they got to be able to make those in the postseason. So I think he can do pretty well. You'd beaten Buffalo in the regular season. You were a toe tap away from tying the Chiefs. I think it's there. You just got to be able to put it together. So top 3, Goff, Allen, Mahomes. As much as I'd want to put Mahomes at 3 just because of his regular season, I'm not going to. I got to put Goff here. Simple reason is he's not Josh Allen, and he's not Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. We've seen Jared Goff get to a Super Bowl. He made the NFC Championship game last year. Done an incredible job. Obviously, just other reasons that Detroit is where they are now, but Jared Goff's a huge factor as to why they're contenders. He's just a phenomenal player that just needed a coach that to believe in him, and Dan Campbell was the guy, and it really just kind of enabled Jared Goff to show off his full potential, and I think it's a great thing. It's a match made in heaven between those two. So Jared Goff's a great player. He's gotten, like I said, he's gotten there before. I think he's just 3 because he's not superhuman compared to who's going to come up next. So the last 2, it's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Not really a surprise. Who you put it to? You have the hard job, man.
I mean, this is hard because
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Mahomes at 2. Once
Okay.
again, hot take. I don't think Allen losing in the playoffs has been his fault.
Yeah.
Um, the Chiefs are unfortunately the monkey on his back, but I don't think every time that he's lost to the Chiefs, it's been his fault. I think
Hmm.
he shows up every game in the postseason and does remarkably Josh
Yeah.
Allen things. Like you know what you're getting when you're playing Josh Allen, but no one can stop you. Same thing with Mahomes. You know what you're getting with Mahomes, you can't stop him. But I think the difference between Mahomes and Allen is Mahomes has always had a defense because Kansas City built that.
Yeah.
Allen unfortunately hasn't really ever had a wide receiver other than Diggs. But since everyone said once Diggs left, he wasn't going to be successful, and this man has probably the number one. He has Amari Cooper, but before Amari Cooper, his top receiver was probably the third receiver on any other roster. Like, this dude
Except the
is
Patriots.
okay in most
I,
rosters.
I know, I know. I was just messing.
I think Allen is better than Mahomes um, because Mahomes isn't dynamic on the ground, and I think Allen is. We all know that he caught a touchdown
Yeah.
pass. The dude is just different. Both of them are different, but I think Allen brings more to the table than Mahomes. Just pure, he can run. He's got a bomb of an arm, um, and he's accurate. It's hard. You can go either way, but I think Mahomes is
Yeah.
too. Mahomes has the Super Bowls, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, well, he has 3 Super Bowls." Like I know, I understand, and
Yep.
I don't think all of it has been Mahomes. Mahomes has the 3 rings. I don't think Allen has the beneficiary of what Mahomes has in Kansas City. Once again, that is not Mahomes' fault at all. Mahomes is just taking advantage of a situation he has. Great for him.
Yeah.
Allen just,
Agreed.
unfortunately, his defense has failed him every single time.
Yeah, especially that 13-second game. That what is Allen supposed to do about that? I will put Mahomes at 1 just because 1, I'd be kind of hypocritical if I didn't, but 2, I think again, and you make really great points. Those multiple losses on Allen aren't on Allen. Ultimately, Mahomes has showed up when he's needed to show up, and until someone can beat him, not named Joe Burrow, which he can't do it,
Burrowhead.
and Tom Brady can't do it. Someone's got to do it. And for me, I got to have Mahomes at 1 until someone takes him down. Even if Mahomes has had help from the defense, even if he hasn't had the best Super Bowl performances, he's still been the one that's gotten it done. These other guys, someone needs to show that they can beat Mahomes. Allen, for sure, has the best chance, and he's came very close multiple times, and his defense, as you mentioned, has sold him out in multiple times. So hopefully for my dad's sake, hopefully they don't have to run into each other, period. Hopefully whoever beats faces Kansas City in the divisional can take care of it. But probably not. It would be Chargers Texans, I think. So yeah, it's really close. You could go either way. I think just for me, it's just solely someone's got to prove that they can beat him. And once you do it, then every other year, I think Allen and maybe even Lamar, if Lamar shows up, could dethrone Mahomes in that aspect. But yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard between those two. But if we're specifically talking this year, though, which I do think a lot of this list is, I'd probably put Allen at 1, just because he's had a phenomenal year. But it's not about the regular season anymore. Whole new season's beginning, so it'll be fun to watch. So really quickly, and we have some. We're gonna run a little late, but that's okay. Quick Super Bowl preview. Who you got?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately for Buffalo, they have a hard road because if they win, they have to probably play Baltimore
Yeah.
at some point. I think that no, they'll play them in the divisional. They'll have to play Baltimore. Baltimore's going to be a good team. Or I guess they'll have to maybe play the Steelers. But Derrick Henry, and I think Lamar has a new weapon within Derrick Henry, and I think that's a different weapon. But I think Buffalo will take the AFC this year. I think he finally gets over the hump of Mahomes. I mean, we saw them play in the regular season. Obviously, once again, it's the playoffs. It's a different atmosphere. They'll be in Kansas City if they play Kansas City. But I think Allen does it this time. And I think from what I saw with the Lions Vikings game yesterday, or not yesterday, Sunday, I think the Lions take it. I don't think anyone in the NFC right now, maybe other than Philly, because Philly's defense can actually maybe hold up. But I think
I'm still.
I
Sorry.
think no, you're fine. I think Detroit takes the NFC, so I think it'll be the Lions and Buffalo, and I think it'll be I think that'll be a really really good Super Bowl.
I'm going America's Super Bowl, Bills Lions. America wants it. Give it to us, Mr. Goodell. Do what it takes. B-dubs, you rig games. We know it. We've seen your ads. Rig it for Buffalo and Detroit. Do whatever it takes. We need the Bills and Lions, man. And I'm just worried that, I don't know. I do feel pretty confident that Detroit can take the NFC. The big concern is their defense, obviously, but obviously it doesn't matter as much when you're scoring 40 points a game. So, but there's a huge worry that if they have to run into Saquon, I'd be worried that Philly could potentially beat him, because who in the world in Detroit's defense is going to stop Saquon? Well, Saquon should be MVP, but that's a different conversation. But I will, for the benefit of the doubt, give Detroit and Buffalo my nod for my Super Bowl, because I want it so bad. It probably won't happen, but you know what? Don't care. America wants it. It really ultimately comes down to, I don't want Kansas City and I don't want Philly. We don't need another Kansas City Super Bowl rematch against the team they just played in 3 years ago. Albeit was a phenomenal Super Bowl. But yeah, so that's what I got. So really quickly, we'll move over. I think we'll skip over the Grand Canyon thing, come back to that next week. And really, maybe we could just stick with the Penn State Notre Dame reaction, and then a quick shout out to Texas Ohio State. But Penn State Notre Dame, pretty dang good game. Shout out to the Penn State receivers for showing up. Elite numbers. 0 catches for 0 yards. Good job, guys. Absolutely incredible. And who could have seen it coming? James Franklin choking against a top-ranked team. Never saw that in a million years. But I guess, to be fair, there was a narrative that was going to go and continue either way, because had Notre Dame lost, we would have been making fun of them for not being able to beat a good team. When it matters anyway. So 27-24, obviously that interception late was a questionable play call and just questionable throw. Pretty much sealed their fate there. So tough loss for Penn State, but I'm not crying for you. So good for you, Notre Dame. I know Illinois is kind of going crazy right now because there's a lot of Notre Dame fans out there. Also a lot of Notre Dame haters. So will be interesting to see who Notre Dame faces. I think Texas would be a cooler matchup for sure, but either way, you're getting a pretty historic blue blood battle. So I think it'll be a good, at least a cool national championship in terms of storylines. So Quinn Ewers, revenge game. I think he throws for 750 yards and 8 touchdowns. I am delusional, so don't take that seriously. As we've all seen, Quinn Ewers has been the big issue on that Texas offense. Just weird. He always starts hot for the most part, and then just one drive makes a big mistake and just crumbles. So I think the key to the game for Texas is you keep staying hot, but get your run game more involved and just calm Ewers down, keep his confidence up, and then take out Jeremiah Smith, whatever it takes, clean. Don't obviously target him, but might have to double team him. Heck, might even have to triple team that man. Jeremiah Smith is a special talent. He's a beast. He obviously embarrassed Oregon last week, and there is a very good possibility you could do that again tonight. But Texas's defense is not Oregon's, so hopefully the Longhorns can lock him up tonight. But should be a good game. So, any thoughts there before we head on out?
Yeah, I mean, the difference, I think, the big difference between, I think, Texas and Oregon, Texas has given up the least amount of big plays or explosive plays in college football. And I don't think that's just because they quote unquote haven't played anyone. Their cornerbacks can lock people down. When you have Taft as your safety, he's a great safety, but I think it all starts with the defensive line. The Longhorns' defensive line is on another level. I think it'll be a battle up front for both sides. For both teams, I think whoever wins in the trenches wins the game. And like you said, you got to stop Jeremiah Smith. If anything, he can't be the one that wins the game for you. Or for Ohio State, you have to make Will Howard find someone else.
Yeah.
Offensively, if we can get the run game going, we may be down a couple of offensive linemen, which will suck and will hurt for us. But if we're still big on the front on the offensive line without those guys, the guys coming in are just as big as the ones we may be losing. Once again, Ohio State's defensive line is different than Arizona State or Clemson's. But if you can win and run the ball like you did against Clemson, it takes the ball out of Ewers' hands, and you control the game more because you control the clock. Overall, I think it'll be a really good game. It'll live up to the expectations. It'll live up to what happened last night. Last night was also a really good game. I think it was the first good game out of all of the college football playoffs so far. And like you said, that interception, the play call was questionable. I think Penn State should have just let it go to overtime and go win it in overtime. But Notre Dame, congrats to Notre Dame. Good job. You got it done. You guys looked like the better team, in my opinion. The first half, Notre Dame looked like they were struggling and slow, but then the second half came along and they looked like the better team for the rest of the night. And so, in my opinion, I think the better team won. I think Notre Dame had the better team overall. And that run game is insane. Jeremiah Love is crazy. He's not even 100%. He's dealing with a knee injury. He's still coming off the flu. Like, the dude is a beast and is just dominant. He's a hard guy to stop. And when you have a run game like that, it makes it a lot easier for the quarterback. Notre Dame, good job. I think whoever makes it, whether it's Ohio State or Texas, I think it'll be a really good championship game. It'll be fun. And honestly, I think these are the four teams that, in my opinion, probably deserve to be here. Because I do think, at least in this aspect, we have the four best teams.
And that's a good look at the committee. And so that's
and
that was the goal of the 12 team. So
that's
what you wanted.
They need to restructure the 12 team and who gets what, but I think you still have your four best teams. I think going into the playoffs, in my opinion, I would have said these four teams.
I actually would have had Ballard Meteors personally, but
maybe no. Georgia, maybe Cumberland. I think
Cumberland, yeah, Cumberland, baby.
they should get 2 automatic buys and automatically make it to the championship game.
Darn right. We should also have Catholic in there, not Notre Dame, just Catholic. No, yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, I think that's all I had. We have a couple points for next week. Carson Beck officially going to Miami. We'll talk more about that. And then for the WAC, we're going to cover the WAC more because that's where ACU are both of our alma maters. That's where they play for football. Or I guess that's technically the term for basketball, but point is that's the conference we're in. We'll talk about Grand Canyon leaving there, and what ACU should do about that, because that conference is in shambles, to say the least. And it's always been in shambles since we moved there. But we will talk more about that next time because we are running a bit long. So, any final thoughts before you close this out?
No, I think that's it. I'm excited for tonight. Last semifinal game. Be a lot of fun. And excited for the championship game in a week or 10 days, whatever it is. Um, but yeah, excited for it. Excited that you guys joined us, and hopefully come back for more. This is, once again, Two Idiots Doing a Sports Podcast.